Now we're going to explore the mind-bending potential of spatial computing. Our next guest, Cathy Hackl, thinks spatial computing will be the next big shift following the evolution of computing from mainframes to desktops to mobile. And she describes it as a kind of mashup of computer vision and AI that makes it possible to integrate digital content more seamlessly into our physical surroundings. To share her vision for what's possible here and what this will change about our world, I'd like to welcome Cathy of Spatial Dynamics.
Hello, everyone. I am here to talk to you about spatial computing and whether it is temporary or transformative. Just show of hands, just for me to kind of get a gauge of who's in the room. Who's a spatial computing skeptic here? Okay, a couple. No worries, no worries, no worries. My hope is that after this talk today, you might start to think of spatial computing in a completely different way. So I want to start by asking everyone in the room, do you think we're going to continue using smartphones for the rest of our lives? Is that the end-all be-all? Is computing going to remain the same? Is the web not going to continue evolving? What happens when AI can actually start to see the world? Will that change anything? So start to think about that when you're thinking about spatial computing. I think most of us can agree that computing in some way, shape, or form is an extension of ourselves. And I truly believe that for computing to get to the next stage, it needs to start to understand the physical world in ways it has never been able to do before, because we have been kind of held back by hardware in some ways and sometimes software. But this AI boom that we're all facing right now, I feel like every single talk has been about generative AI. So I'm kind of breaking the mold a little bit here. But with the AI boom that we've seen over the last 2 years, there's this immense interest in everything emerging tech and how things are accelerating. And at the same time as the AI boom is happening, right, and this crazy moment we're going through with Gen AI, you also have spatial computing kind of just getting started, just taking off. And I'll be here, I'm here to tell you that the road to spatial computing, or to the future of computing in some ways, is never a straight line. Obviously, there's twists and turns and reverses from the mainframe era to personal desktop computing to mobile, and where we're heading next, which is spatial computing. Just kind of for people to kind of get a better idea of how this is starting to happen, right? Why do we start to talk about spatial? Because computing is expanding, right? From the personal to our mobile phones, which have changed our lives, to going into spatial computing. At the same time as this is happening, the web is evolving. The web is changing. It seems like every day I hear more news about how the internet's changing, whether it's positive or negative, but an evolution, right? So we went from World Wide Web to mobile web, taking the web with us everywhere. Now we're going to start to go into the spatial web. And yes, the word metaverse is up there. I know it's a bad word for a lot of people. They don't want to use it. But you're going to start to see a lot of people that had talked about the metaverse in some ways start to refer to it as the spatial web or the spatial internet. Because at the same time as computing is expanding and the web is evolving, you also have hardware adapting. Rapid change in the hardware side. I spent many years working in hardware at HTC Vive, Magic Leap, for example. So hardware is very hard, but hardware is adapting to this new era. So, right, going from mainframe computers to desktop computers, it was a huge change. Then our mobile devices, which we can't live without, our lifelines. And now, spatial computers, AI wearables, smart glasses, robots, everything that's evolving in that space. I usually try to use a quote from someone interesting, and Tim Cook is pretty interesting in my book. He's obviously at the forefront of thinking about spatial computing and what it means. Obviously, they have the Apple Vision Pro, which is a product they're trying to sell into the world, but I think that they are true believers in what spatial computing can bring. I love this quote. He said, "I believe even more about how profound spatial computing is. When you've tried it, it's an aha moment, and you only get a few of those in your lifetime." How many of you here have put on an Apple Vision Pro? So a few of you have had that experience. For most of us, it is that aha moment of true magic. For many of you, maybe that last aha moment was playing with GPT 4.0, if you have access to it already. But yeah, there's those aha moments where you're using technology, you're completely blown away. This era of spatial computing, this next era of how we will engage with content, is going to be filled with a lot of aha moments. I love showing this picture. This is from my time at Magic Leap, which created one of the initial spatial computers before Apple actually did. This is me giving a demo to a 13-year-old Girl Scout in Atlanta, and you can just see her face, right? That's a lot of us when we get access to that new technology. What she's looking at right there, she's looking at the skyline of Atlanta and a great white whale swimming through the skyline. So very, very much filled with excitement. So obviously, I need to give you guys a good definition of what spatial computing is. Spatial computing is not one single technology, so it's not just the Apple Vision Pro. That's a spatial computer. It doesn't mean it's spatial computing. And it is not one single technology. So if anyone tells you that spatial computing is the same thing as mixed reality, it is not. Mixed reality is one of the technologies. Spatial computing is an evolving 3D-centric form of computing that at its core uses AI, computer vision, XR, and other technologies to blend virtual experiences and content in someone's experience of the physical world. It's about to expand computing into everything you can see, touch, know, and feel. And it is about to change human-computer interaction as well as human-to-human communications, just like mobile computing did. You have to start to think about spatial computing in terms almost like a new field of technology of sorts, just like mobile computing was, with many different components. You've got the hardware part, right? That's where a lot of the attention is right now with the Vision Pro, for example. But you've got a lot of work happening in software. There's going to be new information and data types and new connectivity and compute power that we're going to need. If you take a picture of any of my slides, I recommend that this is the slide you take a picture of because it really lays out what the components of spatial computing are with a little bit more detail, from the hardware to the software to the new information types. For example, moving away from pixels to voxels, moving away from LiDAR scanning to VIDAR scanning. Those are some of the things that you're going to start to see with spatial computing and how it's about to change things. I truly do believe that AI and spatial computing are the driving force in this new era that we're going into, where we're going to move from mobile into a new form of computing. And the reality is that really, I think the word of the year should be convergence. Of course, it's AI, but I do truly believe that it is about the convergence of all these technologies coming together and creating new data types, new formats that are emerging, new hardware. It is also that what's coming next for AI. This convergence of the physical and virtual world is starting to create new investment opportunities for a lot of companies. For example, Dr. Fei Li, which many of you probably follow, has recently launched a spatial intelligence startup. And I am going to be talking a little bit about what that means as well. We're also seeing a Cambrian explosion of new hardware. Almost every single day, I get an email about new AI-enabled hardware, whether it is new phones, new glasses, new AI pins. Meta, for example, is doing really interesting work with their Ray-Ban sunglasses, which are now multimodal. So you can ask Meta to tell you what something is in front of you, and enabling new ways for us to engage with our devices, and obviously our assistants and our robots and things that will come in the future, especially also our cars. We're also going to start to see a lot more human-centered AI in the form of spatial agents. This is a picture of some of the work we did at Magic Leap when I was there. The two women wearing glasses are human. The one that's not wearing glasses is a virtual human called Micah, which you could actually experience through the device. And people would basically engage with her in this table. They would make a collage with her. The reaction I saw to people engaging with this human-centered AI was really impressive because at that time she didn't speak. I don't know if she speaks right now, but Micah would smile and people would smile back. It's a human way of engaging, right? She would yawn. I would see people yawn. They would take the device off and they would say, this is such a different way of engaging with AI. I don't feel like I was talking to a Terminator. I felt like I was talking to like a truly helpful kind of engaging AI. So I think we're going to start to see more of that hardware that allows us to engage with spatial agents. So when you think of spatial computing, AI, generative AI, everything that's happening there, this is what I truly see when we talk about 2024 and beyond. is spatial intelligence. So both AI, everything that's happening there, the things that are happening in spatial computing kind of coming together. So creating spatial intelligence. By that I mean AI and hardware and software that has vision-enabled hardware. We're going to start to see a lot of that has perception and perspective and context of the physical world. Because what's starting to happen with, for example, Meta's Ray-Ban glasses, or Apple Vision Pro, or even GPT-4, which can actually look at the world now, is that the physical world starts to become the canvas, right? Starts to be where computing starts to transcend beyond the screens that we've been living through. It also becomes a canvas, but it also becomes real estate, which is, kind of the Debbie Downer side of my talk, is that in that future, the negative side is that everything within eyesight and earshot of you does become real estate, right? So it becomes a canvas, which is very positive, but it also becomes real estate. And what also starts to happen is that every surface around us becomes a spatial interface. So there's actually a lot of really interesting work being done right now inside vehicles to start to look at how do we engage with vehicles differently when we're inside them? How do we start to create spatial interfaces, especially as autonomous vehicles start to kind of get better and better as they head into more autonomy? So we're going to see a new frontier for entertainment, services, and experiences as this spatial era with spatial AI starts to kind of evolve. And you're going to start to see a lot of new models start to evolve. So obviously, large language models, everything I've been doing in my research shows that I think by 2025, large language models are going to run out of data from the internet. So where are they going to start to get new data from? And that's going to come in the form of this new hardware that can see the physical world and have that spatial intelligence. So you're going to start to hear people talking more about large vision models, large action models like the R1 Rabbit, and then large world models, which is kind of a lot of what NVIDIA is starting to look at when they talk about Earth AI. And MIT obviously is at the forefront of a lot of this work. They're already working on creating vision-enabled AI models that allow AI to see the world. In the next 6 to 18 months, what I tell you will definitely be happening is, like I said, an explosion of new hardware and software offerings, more investment in different AI models that allows us to navigate physical and virtual at the same time. A lot more investment in gaming. If you've been following the news, you've probably seen, Disney investing in Epic, those sorts of things. More robots and generative computing. There's a reason that both Apple is looking at robots, that NVIDIA is looking at robots. These are the robots that are going to start to see the world and navigate it alongside us. And then further convergence of technology and biology and merging of the physical and virtual. I know that tech biology component makes people very uncomfortable, but I definitely see that coming, maybe not accelerating, but starting to kind of move. And then with spatial computing, once again, to leave you with a definition so you don't think it's just one device or one technology, it is an evolving 3D-centric form of computing. At its core, it uses computer vision, XR, and other technologies to blend the virtual that we've been seeing through our phones and our computers, into someone's experience of the physical world. It is going to change human-to-human interaction, right? The way mobile did as well. But it's also going to change human-computer interaction because these devices, these robots, these cars, everything is going to start to understand the physical world. So when you can meet the computer in the physical world and kind of start to access that data layer that we can't really see, that's where it starts to get really interesting. And it is going to expand computing beyond the screen into every surface and everything we can see, touch, and know. So as I started, I asked you, is computing going to remain the same? Is it going to expand? Is it going to change? So what happens when AI can see the world and you start to have spatial intelligence? So if this moment truly is as revolutionary as mobile was, what will you do with that knowledge, knowing that things are about to change? You're going to get new hardware, new software. AI is going to start to truly be useful to us in the physical world. So I want to thank you. I'm excited to be here. I know we're doing a Q&A, correct? And I do want to mention, I had initially sent a couple of books over. I have a new book called Spatial Computing, an AI-Driven Business Revolution that came out last Tuesday. I had sent a couple copies of the book. They didn't arrive in time, but hopefully you'll be able to kind of get a look at it at some point. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathy. Wow, this topic is absolutely fascinating to me. So I am trying to wrap my head around the definition of spatial computing that you shared up there, but I got to admit I'm struggling a little bit.
No
So
worries.
help me out. Is this the metaverse? I don't think so. I think it's something different. Explain it to me again.
Yeah, so just like the mobile, like mobile computing isn't the same as a mobile phone, right? Or the mobile internet, it's the same thing. Spatial computing is not the same as the spatial web or as a spatial computer, right? They're all components of this new future that we're going into. I do feel like the metaverse obviously needed to rebrand in some ways. So, like I said, a lot of people in the industry are starting to use the term spatial web, which is a term that had already been used in the past. There's actually a book from, I think, 2019 called The Spatial Web. So that actually was, in essence, talking about the metaverse.
So the spatial web is the metaverse. Spatial computing is not. Got
Yes.
it, I think. Do we really need this?
I don't know if we do, but that's definitely where things are going with technology, and that's where all the VCs are putting their money.
Yeah.
So they're going to take us there in some way, shape, or form. So yeah, I do think big tech is definitely pushing into this space, and then yeah, the VC dollars are definitely starting to flow
Yeah.
into spatial intelligence.
You're right about that. Well, what are since we're going there anyway? What are some things that will be possible in this new age of spatial computing that aren't possible today, in your view?
Yeah, I'll give you an example. Whenever you go to like a Beyonce concert, a Taylor Swift concert, like everyone's living it through their mobile phones.
I wish I had attended either of those, and I'm sad
Right.
to say I'm happy. I'll take your word for it.
But yeah, when you're actually in the concert and you see everyone with their phones, they're not experiencing it in the physical world. I had a pretty transformative experience a couple of weeks ago. I went on safari, which was fantastic. And my friends that I went with were like, leave your phone, like experience the animals, just look
Yeah.
at them. Like, why do you have to do it through your phone? And I actually left my phone but brought my Meta glasses. So I was still able to record, but I didn't have to like it was
Yeah.
a different experience because I could just press the button on my glasses
Yeah.
and record the video, but I'm still in it, like I'm still experiencing it in the physical world. So to me, that was a little transformational in the sense that I was present, right? I was more present than I would be looking through my screen. So I think things like that, new forms of entertainment, new forms of engagement. There's always been conversations in the XR space about being heads up, like heads up display, right? Instead of us all being here on our phone, our phones at dinner, we're going to be up here. Granted, there's going to be a whole bunch of data they're going to be looking at and screens and all sorts of things, but at least we might be able to look each other in the eye. So I think things like that are going to be enabled. I think education, healthcare, I think are going to be impacted. I did a demo recently at an event called Summit at Sea, and I used the Vision Pro. I did a live demo on stage, because that's what you do when you want to get really concerned, because live demos can go bad
Yes,
any second.
very.
But I put the device on, and I had a 3D model of a beating heart, showing a healthy heart, then showing a heart that was having a heart attack. And basically, I'm wearing the device. We're kind of the screen shows what people are seeing, which is the 3D model in front of me. I'm able to kind of get closer to the heart and then go into the heart and look inside the heart. That was one of the moments where the audience was just like, oh, like, wow, that's truly amazing. And then with the Vision Pro, for example, it has a digital crown. So you can kind of go from physical world, mixed reality, where I have, the physical world and the 3D model in front of me, to fully immersive, where in this case, it was an OR, or, they have different settings. That was one of the other moments where people were like, wow, you can kind of go between physical world and virtual world in a very easy way. So when I think of that, I say, what can be enabled, right? First of all, better education for people that are studying medicine, better education for patients, understanding what is going to happen in this procedure, what could happen to your heart, those sorts of things. And then I think from a, kind of a remote medicine perspective, being able to kind of, there's already people using the Vision Pro for operations, for example, from remote locations. So.
All right, but what makes you so confident? I mean, there's been so much hype about generative AI, but there's still, arguably no killer app for that, and VR and AR have failed to catch on in a big way for years. So is this different, and if so, why?
I'm bullish on it. It's really early. I'm not telling anyone here to go and buy an Apple Vision Pro. It is too expensive. In my perspective, a Vision Pro is really a developer's kit or prosumer,
Yeah.
And I've said this before, it's $3,500 worth of technology in the device, it doesn't mean there's $3,500 worth of value for the consumer in the device just yet. So
point.
definitely not telling anyone to go. This is really early, but I truly do believe that in order for computing to evolve, it needs to break free from those screens. And you're starting to see this. All big tech is starting to release new hardware. Right? They're starting to rethink what replaces the mobile phone. They're starting to rethink new content models. So it's about to change. I think you're going to start to see that. And it's, like I said, it's really early, but when you start to see the signals, for example, a Y Combinator putting a call for startups. They don't do that very often. They put a call for startups for spatial computing. You see Andreessen investing in Fei Li's spatial intelligence company. You see, Meta's investments in new hardware. You see Sergey Brin talking at Google I/O about some of the regrets on Google Glass and how he thinks something will replace the mobile phone. So, I'm bullish on it. Like you mentioned, do we need it? I don't know, but that's where I think it's definitely going, where the signals are telling me it's going, where the money is going, and definitely where the hardware is going. There's a reason, and I know everyone here is super excited about OpenAI, but there's a reason that they're giving it vision. There's a reason why Sam Altman and Johnny Ive are talking about new hardware, because once you own that hardware, you can own data. You can own the data that these new large vision models are going to be trained on.
So interesting. I know some of you have questions for Cathy. Yes.
Hi, I'm Audrey. I'm with CSA Alliances, so I'm right here on campus. Thank you for the talk. That was a great talk. I would love to hear your thoughts about data storage, because obviously these are going to be massive, massive data reservoirs that are going to come from this. So how are we going to manage the data storage that's going to come out of that? Thank you.
Yeah. I always talk about how we haven't even seen, like with generative AI, we're already seeing it, right? But with these larger vision models, updatable in real time, mind you, like the storage of that data, like I don't think we even have created what needs to be, in place. I spent some time at AWS working on cloud computing. We don't have the connectivity, for example, from the telco side. Like 5G is not going to cut it, right? 5G might cut it for 10 people wearing a headset on, outside of the home. But if you're talking about millions of people with headsets out of the home, you're going to need 6G, 6G plus. From a computing perspective, edge and cloud are going to have to evolve, just like they're already evolving because of AI. And then you're going to have new data types that at the beginning are going to be extremely heavy, like voxels are heavier than pixels, right? So that hasn't been created. So like that in itself is a startup idea for anyone out there, is what are the containers that are actually going to contain this data, because they haven't been created. I think there's some startups and things happening in that space, but it's going to be quite a task.
Yes, another question.
Frank Gillette, an industry analyst from IDC and Forrester in the past. I've thought some about this and worked with clients, and it feels like there's a transition technology here that isn't getting enough attention. And I even tried out the name SmartSet for it, right? Because if we think about not so much replacing the phone, but extending and enhancing the phone, because the visual technology is just too far behind. But we wear things on our wrists, we wear things in our ears. So now you have head position, you have sensory inputs that are not just the phone, that transcend the screen. And then eyeglass frames. Forget trying to cover my face with a display, little visual hints, little audible hints, sensors. It feels like it's a neglected area, and yet it feels like it would be an excellent, say, transition or even perhaps good destination, because nobody wants to walk around with something strapped on their face that's distracting. So what about those ideas, not only on the person, but even in the environment, sensing and responding and interacting with the person and the gizmos on their body?
I definitely agree with you. I think wearable technology in general is incredibly interesting. You're going to see definitely advancements in neural interfaces. And I'm not even going to go into brain-computer interface, because that's like a totally different conversation. But I think you're going to start to see more neural interfaces, right, where we're able to kind of manipulate technology with just our eyes or just our hands, or those concepts, right, that they understand our intention. But definitely, I mean, I'm a big believer in all sorts of wearables. They don't only have to be glasses. That just is something I'm personally working on a lot more. But definitely, I mean, yeah, definitely the watch. I would say AirPods have brought in a world of spatial data, of spatial audio, right? There's a few startups in the AI space working on spatial, moving beyond just spatial audio, right, to spatial intelligence from an audio perspective. Oh yeah, definitely. I think it's all going to tie together, and you can actually wear your AirPods with your Vision Pro, which gives you a totally different experience. So definitely, I think you're going to see. This is what I tell anyone: the form factor of what's going to replace the mobile phone isn't here yet. Like, we haven't seen it. It's 5 to 10 years from now when we'll see something that people are going to truly want. So what you're going to see right now is tons of different categories and versions of what it could look like. Is it a pin? Is it AirPods? Is it watches? There's going to be a lot of different. Yeah.
Yeah, and we've got one more question. I'm sorry. I want
sorry.
to get to this
Sorry.
one. But thank you. You can catch her in the lobby afterward. Yes.
Thank you, Cathy. Robert Wickham, thank you for your talk. Very inspiring. As I was listening to your comments, I couldn't help think of Tony Stark and his AI, intelligent AI. And I wonder, as you think about that what makes him a superhero is having that AI that can orchestrate all parts of his life and analyze on demand. And I wonder if that's the paradigm that you see us accelerating towards, and what do we need to do in order to get from here to there within a time frame?
You bring up Jarvis, for those people that follow Marvel. I use Jarvis as an example. I think the future is more Jarvis, less Ready Player One. I don't want to be stuck in a VR headset in a container in a dystopic world. I do see more it as Jarvis enabling us to do things, kind of augmenting our capabilities. My second book is actually called The Augmented Workforce, and it goes into how we're starting to augment humans with more technology. How do you start to prepare for that future? Once again, it's really early. But if you start to understand that eventually the physical world becomes where computing is going to live and where we're going to access that data layer that we can't really see right now, then you have to start to think about, how do my services change? How do my products change? Especially, and this is my biggest advice to everyone here, start to look at Gen Alpha. Gen Alpha are the kids of millennials. I'm an older millennial. I've got 3 Gen Alpha kids. These children do not see a difference between virtual and physical. Millennials and older see the real world and the virtual world. Gen Z, and especially Gen Alpha, they move in between a continuum. Like, there is no difference to them what happens. I always say this, and I know we're running over, but my son, who's a Roblox developer, if he's playing Roblox and he gets into a fight with his friend, he's going to be angry at his friend the next day at school, right? It's just because it happened in Roblox doesn't mean it wasn't real. So this younger generation, who by 2030 will be 10% of the workforce, is going to change a lot of things because they flow between physical and virtual very easily.
Well, I, for one, am looking forward to the future. Cathy, thank you so much for being here. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
This brings us to the end of our chapter, which means it's lunchtime. So let's take a break, get some food out in the lobby, and be sure to visit Poggio's table and enter the raffle drawing for today. We'll see you back here after lunch to talk about net zero computing and cutting cloud costs in a session hosted by my colleague, James O'Donnell. Thank you.